Hi, everyone, and welcome to Stop Adding Tools and Start Fixing the System. This automotive news webinar is brought to you by DriveCentric. We're delighted you're with us for this presentation. I'm Emma Hancock, host, strategist, and moderator at Automotive News. Before I introduce our speakers today, a navigation tip. We encourage you to ask questions at any time. Just type them into the Q&A box on the left side of the webinar window and then hit send. I will steer your questions to our speakers toward the end of the session. Our speakers today are Steve Roessler, Chief Evangelist Officer at DriveCentric, Joe St. John, Corporate Finance Director at Oaks Automotive Group, and Jason Doherty, Dealer Principal at Legacy Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. And now I'll turn it over to Steve, Joe, and Jason to get us started.
Oh, Emma, it's so good to see you. And I'm so excited to talk about this topic because, look, this is a mind-numbing exercise I keep hearing from dealerships on how many different systems they're all using across different departments. I can't believe they use like 6 to 10 plus systems across sales, marketing, and service. We got to quit the insanity. And I'm so glad that Jason and Joe are here to talk about this because, look, when you are operating in all these different systems across the business, that's a lot of gaps that we have to fill. And you got to be a part of the solution and quit adding more tools as technology continues to grow. So I'm so pumped up. And Jason, I'm going to ask you first, man. As we go out there and you start looking at all these systems, where did you start seeing the things breaking down between, marketing, sales, and service? I mean, Jason, air your grievances, man.
Well, I think for the most part, we have our marketing dialed in pretty well. The breakdown really happens for us is always the process between the handoff of that lead, the customer, into the salesperson or the service writer. And I think for us, I just identified that they just get so busy. They're overwhelmed with tasks. They're overwhelmed with things. And then they just don't follow through the way the customer expects them to. And so it really happens at the execution of giving the customer what they're there asking for, not necessarily the lead generation. And I think most people have the leads dialed in. It's pretty clear on the website. Hey, click here, send your question or whatever you need. And so that's really where the breakdown was for us and what we had to get fixed.
All right, Joe, what about you, man?
Yeah, I think I want to kind of echo a little of what Jason's saying. For us, I think lead generation is something that if you're not putting a ton of focus on, you're missing, right? Like it's number of VINs, it's the way that you price, it's the way that you market, it's all these things that go into it. Really, for us, it was less about even managing just the communication with the customer. It was all the communication that happens in the business, right? So, as corporate finance director, I get calls into finance that are actually a call for service, or a service manager gets a call asking a question about a finance contract, or somebody from sales is calling into finance because they want to get an idea on a lease before they drive in with their 4 kids to look at a carnival, right? So there's all of this kind of like internal communication that's happening inside the business really regularly. I think one of the things that we've focused on is really centralizing and improving all of that internal communication. And for us, like, I don't have a really good way of describing it, but we use our CRM almost like our internal Slack or Teams communication. And so what I really love about it is when you look at like a customer record, you can see these notes going back and forth of us talking about, as a manager, as a finance manager, as a service writer, we're coordinating our communications really around that customer record in a way that creates context, right? And I love, like, we will mention people in other departments that we need help in so that it alerts them and pulls them into the conversation. And I would say, the thing that really shifted for me was I went to the DC 20 conference last fall, and one of the presenters did a big analysis over all the results that they were getting and looking at all of their data across all the systems. What leads to the highest improvement in closing rate? And I sent out an email Monday to our entire sales manager team mentioning this because the number one driver, and I think it was like a 61% increase in closing, was an mention of a manager that got them involved in a car deal. And so for us, we are pushing our salespeople, don't give up on the deal. You hit a wall, you don't know what to do. Just mention Christian, and Christian will immediately jump in and start communicating with you and the customer and moving this in the right direction. And so I would say the things that we focus on from a metrics point of view is really our close of opportunities and close of visits. And I would say the number one thing that really drives that we're seeing is the sooner we can get a manager involved, the higher the rate is going to be that we close. And the way that we do that is really communicating in the system as kind of our key internal communication point, right? Steve, I'll at Des in accounting for a title issue on a customer, and she'll immediately message the customer a status update on where the title is, right? I'll at message our service BDC because a customer called the salesperson wanting to schedule an appointment for an oil change, and the salesperson doesn't know what to do. And now I've got service immediately calling that customer back. And I really think that the more that we can kind of centralize our internal communication around the customer, the more that we can really adapt and respond to whatever we need to do to deliver the experience that the customer is hoping for. And I think that's one of the biggest shifts we've had over the last little bit.
Well, and for those of you who don't know, Joe, you kind of said something that resonated with me, because a lot of people do use Slack or Microsoft Teams or some other tool outside of the norm of what they're already using for all these different types of widgets, right? So I got to go in there and look at this communication and hope that I see that in real time versus what they should be in. The one platform that communicates across all different platforms. So, I mean, it's really great that you brought that up. But I want to make sure the audience kind of knows those systems for communicating, keeping the business unified is going to be so important. So when did you realize, it wasn't so much the people as much as the system in place with all the different tools out there?
I think everyone's looking for ways to improve communication at the dealership, right? Mm-hmm. Like we have this customer centricity that we're trying to achieve, and everybody's doing these different functions. And man, when I got to Oaks, and you have, group me chats going on, text threads going on. You've got like Google chats happening, like all these things happening. Where do
I go?
Yeah, and I started referring to it as communication inflation. Like there's so much communication happening anywhere. I don't know what's important, so I just stopped looking at all of it, which probably isn't a healthy response. And I think what we had to look at was, as a dealer, you have all this data that's spread across all these different systems. And I think you have all these dashboards that give you like little bits of information. And sometimes you have to kind of zoom out and look at it in context of each of these other pieces, because I think what you really have to inform is not that I'm going to say something pretty controversial. You know me. I don't think that technology is going to replace execution, right? Like, I think everybody's looking for some magic tool that's going to automate everything. And maybe at some point AI will be able to continue to do more and more and more. We're leaning into it really heavily here. But dashboards should inform our prioritization of what we're doing, not be seen as a replacement for execution. And so for me, I think of all these data points as us being really clear in our core processes of how we respond to what we respond in priority in almost a waterfall. And our dashboard should show us how to do that in the most effective way, and then give us the information in real time to be hyper responsive in the way that we do that. And so that's kind of the way that I think about it. It's the big three, right? It's people, process, and products. It's and I think it's having those things really intersecting in this system that controls all of that communication that we do with the customer.
Well, at the end of the day, it's about the consumer, right? Their experience. What is it? Because if you have a disconnect, between communication platforms, you got too many of them. Like, for example, even in our company, we use Slack, and I look at Slack in the morning and late at night. So if they send me something during the day, I'm probably not going to see it. So, Jason, can you relate to this?
Oh, yeah. It's I was sitting here listening to this, and it reminded me of a conversation I had with our used car manager one time, and the guy was just really overwhelmed, and he just was dropping balls like crazy. And when we really sat down and looked at it, when he comes in the morning, he's got his used car tracker he's got to log into and check with Recon, and it's got 6 or 8, 10 alerts in there in the morning when he comes in, and he's got, of course, 100 emails that have gone through. He's got to sort through all his junk and go through. Then there's the Google Chat feature, which salespeople have been communicating in, and everybody's communicating in the Google Chat. And then he logs into the CRM, and there's 30 leads that came in. And oh, by the way, on top of those 30 leads, you haven't been doing your tasks. And so now he's buried in 300 deep in tasks that he's got to do. And the DMS as well has communication features in it. And so in the DMS, he logs into that. And I realized that, oh my gosh, salespeople and all my managers aren't doing a bad job. They're just overwhelmed with tasks, and they've got 15 different platforms to log into, and all of them require that they go through all of these tasks, which kind of like our emails, 80% of them are junk and don't even apply to them, but they still got to click on it and open it up and look at it and go, okay, well, that's not me. Somebody else respond. And which probably everybody who opened it said that. And so that ball gets dropped. And it's just, you just realize that, oh my gosh, if we could, I need to eliminate the platforms. I need to, I really believe that if it's more than, 3 is the max and 3 is too many. But any more than 3 platforms, and it's too much. It's too much for people to manage. I'm sure, Joe, you're in the same boat. You get vendors trying to get you to do their demo all the time. And hey, we've got this new thing that's going to solve this problem or this gap in your process in your store. And when you do the demo, they tout, hey, we've got this great dashboard, and you can see all this data and all these kind of things. And yeah, that's a great tool. But if it doesn't integrate with the tools I'm already using, I'm out. I don't need another platform. I don't need another tool. It's just kind of like this mountain of data getting poured onto your people all the time. And then you get mad that somebody dropped the ball. Well, or
they didn't look
in
at
there somewhere.
they
just didn't find it at the time they needed.
You're in luck because I got another dashboard to show everybody on this call. No, I'm joking.
Only $699 a month, and here you go.
Oh, it's under 700. You got me. All right.
Yeah.
I thought it would be like $495 or something, but I think that's the pain that everybody is feeling with all these different things. And I know we always talk about processes, right? But when you start adding these things, you can see the disconnect. So, Joe, let me ask you, how do these multiple tools, how are they impacting the follow-up and consistency at least at your store today?
Yeah, so I think we're very specific in the tools that we select that we think are going to be incredibly valuable, right? So it has to have a really high perception of tangible value and our ability to support the customer's needs and influence our ability to, sell more cars and make more profit, right? And, there's multiple tools across the entire ecosystem, right? It's not just more sales dashboards. It's another thing that does this, another thing that does this. It's a presentation tool over in your service department. It's a newfangled menu in F&I. There's so many things out there that I think we had to get very surgical in deciding what would influence the customer experience in the best way that we could use that would help us drive to the outcomes that we're looking for. I think that at some point, the more visibility you create around stuff to look at, the less anybody looks at anything and actually takes action. And I think that the byproduct of that is sometimes people don't look at stuff that they should be looking at because they're looking at some stuff that doesn't really matter. Or you need people that are looking at everything and then going, hey, Steve, go look at this thing, because I think this is something I need you to pay attention to. What's interesting to me is, we have tools that some people this is what's so crazy. We have tools some people absolutely love. And if I tried to claw it out of their hands, they would fight me on it because they think it makes them like a hero. And then I have right next to them on another desk, somebody that has never even logged into that system other than the training they went through. And so I think that people really gravitate to what they find valuable, and then they ignore the rest. Steve, it's like you in Slack. It's like me on GroupMe. We have these GroupMe chats. I don't even look at them anymore because it feels like a lot of gifts being sent between salespeople, and it's people making memes of each other, and it's like
happy birthday to somebody or whatever.
Yeah, and so for me, that's, and so I think that what I'm trying to always do is constantly pushing everyone back into our centralized system, right? And it's for me, I think it's less less tooling that's more integrated into something, right? That's the more effective we're going to be. The less tools we have that are completely disparate systems, and the more that they are like value add that's interfacing with what we're doing and picking up and dropping off where it needs to be, that seems to work the best for us. Yeah. And for me, the way that we push everyone back into this is we just at them. It's what I love is at Steve. Take a look at this deal. Miss Jones is asking for this. Like, let's go. Or I will respond as Steve and then at you. Hey, dum-dum, I need you paying attention to this deal. We got a car deal here. Let's go get it. Like, and I think that the more that we pull everyone into that system, the more that people learn where to look. And it's on us, right? Like it's on you somewhat, Steve. It's on me. The more we inform them how to do that effectively every day, hold them accountable for doing it. Jason, we're a task-free dealership, right? Like I don't know what you're guys, but we don't have any tasks set up. It is all like manager-driven, focused 14-day follow-up. And to do that, though, you've got to be dialed in and paying attention to it. And I don't want other stuff distracting from that. And so, like, I think you said something, Jason, that's really stuck out to me is clearing out the noise of everything else so that they are focused in priority of most valuable, second most valuable, third most valuable, and they're working down that chain to maximize the delivery of value is really what we're striving to do. Now, have we perfected it? No, right? There's a lot that we can, I'm a work in progress. We're a worker. We can always get better. But I think the more that we can hone that focus in, the better we end up playing.
Yeah. Dude, I was thinking about noise when you said that, bro, because that's what I'm thinking is all these systems just create noise. And then I guess, Jason, with you, I mean, like, is there a lot of noise that obviously, you know, cause you not to be consistent in your process, I'm assuming, too?
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. You know, you wake up one day and you realize that the problem isn't the people necessarily. You can have a perfect system, but you still got imperfect people. Yep. And so how do we get those two things to mesh together? And I think the more systems, the more platforms to log into, the more tasks, as you mentioned, to do, and it just becomes overwhelming. And the reality is that people naturally, we take care of the thing that's on fire in front of us at the time. And so the loudest of all of the noise gets the attention and nothing else does. And so, yeah, it's just this, you just have this realization that if it's not simple, it's not going to get used. If it doesn't integrate into whatever they're doing or their main role is really seamlessly, then it's not going to be used. And so we're the same. We eliminated tasks. We got rid of the tasks. And I think we're getting into this in the discussion a little later about AI, but AI does all the tasks now. We don't have to, I don't need I want my people to be as efficient as possible. And that is, I realized that we've got to have our systems efficient. We started this process, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago, of going through all of our vendors. And if they don't integrate into our centralized system, then we went and found one that did. I don't have time to, I'm just as guilty. You brought up the guy who didn't log in, hasn't logged in since the training. There was like half a dozen of those that I haven't logged into and I haven't seen, and I'm supposed to be managing this stuff. And so, and it's kind of embarrassing, but you know, you handle the fire that's in front of you, and so they got to integrate. They have to coordinate with our
Jason, well, I love the fact that you both have no tasks. I mean, this is awesome. But yeah, go ahead, Joe. What were you going to say?
Well, I was thinking about this this morning as I was, walking the dog, and I think one of my biggest challenges in running dealerships is managing people's focus, right? Like you described your used car manager, and I'm constantly fighting that battle with a team of people that have a pressing fire. So there's this sense of urgency on something that might actually be really low importance. And then there's these really important things that don't get got to because they're so focused on this thing that feels really, really, really urgent. And I think that clarity of focus prioritization, like the more I can get these high impact players to focus on delivering high value, the more effective we play as a dealership and the better our results become. And I think that like that thread to me is just stripping away all that noise so that it's really clear. And it's hard to do. Like, Jason, that's hard because there's so much stuff coming at everyone all the time that, like, keeping clarity around that, I think, is such a crucial part of running an effective dealership.
Yeah. I'm a pretty simple-minded guy. I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere in Kansas, and we had 3 TV stations that we only got one in really clearly, and we had, I think there was a rock and roll radio station, a country radio station, and then the news talk radio station. That was it. And so if you wanted to market and reach a customer, it was pretty simple with those platforms, and you could reach everybody. And today you think about all of the, dozens and dozens of platforms that we have to spend money on marketing to reach even just a small percentage of customers. And all of those platforms are trying to communicate with your people, to send in leads and everything else. And so you've got all these leads. And so some smart guy said, hey, let's develop a CRM so guys weren't just filling out little Post-it cards anymore. And now we've got all these amazing CRMs. But the next step now is, how do we bring in all of the systems? And so our people aren't being overwhelmed with that same communication. It's really the same. The world has become a million different ways to communicate. And we've got the challenge for us is how do we simplify that so that, the dumb farm kid who's now trying to manage a dealership can figure it out, because I can't figure it out if you're trying to talk to me from 15 different directions. I'm going to get overwhelmed and go hunting. I'll just have to leave the store for the day. and so I think that there's some pretty cool tools out there that are doing that, and it's just making all of our lives easier.
Yeah. No, I mean, those are great points. And, you guys mentioned, obviously, I was talking about the no tasks. And, the thing that I always try to do, especially when I'm doing these webinars, is we got to think about where the customers are buying. And the data is showing that 70% of customers are buying cars in 4 days, and 80% in 10 days. So I think the no tasks makes a lot of sense. We go out there and we talk about how to minimize and which leads me into transforming. Jason, you kind of said it, CRMs should be transforming into what's called an engagement like tool, an engagement platform that literally, if that's going to be where it makes the money for our stores, that's what these systems need to evolve to. So I'm going to go to you, Joe, first, and just, like for you, obviously transforming and making, the CRM, the center point, the focal point of where all your communication happens. Tell us what changed when you did that at your store.
Yeah. I mean, I think that changes everything, right? It moves from, I was a bad sales manager that managed my salespeople off tasks, right? Like, they would have to check out at the end of the day. I'm like, how many tasks you got left? And I would pull it up and look, and then they would get marked red, yellow, or green based on how many tasks they had. And I was just beating on them for tasks, right?
Sales manager, right?
It was like, and what killed me was at that DC20 conference, which I'm so glad I got to go, was one of the presentations talked about when they did that, that big meta study, the thing that was the number one corollary in driving closing rates down was number of tasks completed. And I was like, okay, I don't want to do that. And so I think that for us, it became about engagement instead of just tasks, right? Like, we swarm to the ball on engagement, right? It is our focal point. And then I think what happened was, inadvertently, it just became this communication platform for us, right? And that communication doesn't reset every time, it builds. So I can look and get context to know things that the customer would assume I already know, right? We've got a kind of centralized finance, directorship over our 3 stores, meaning we have everything rings to a finance number. So if a finance manager doesn't take a call, I end up answering it, right? And I had a customer call in. They were at another dealership. They had a question because they were in Nebraska, and they needed a service, file a claim on their warranty. They were calling me looking for help. And so I look at all their service notes in our CRM. I basically pull the contract, I drop it as an attachment and text it immediately, send it immediately via text and email to the customer. And all my communication as I hang up, that's recorded now in there. Now I hang up and I'm texting them, hey, I want to make sure you got everything I sent you. And it's all in this space. So if somebody has to pick that deal up, so, service, finance, sales, everyone sees these interactions and isn't starting back over from square one again. And I think that's really powerful for a dealer.
Yeah, that's I don't know, do you by chance pin the notes? I mean, that might be something.
Oh yeah. Like up at the top if something's important.
Really good to basically keep that communication where it's priority. So no matter who opens up that card, it makes a lot of sense.
Yep. I learned that through your training, Steve, and now I do it all the time. Thank you.
Hey, I taught some. Look at there. Hey, Jason, what about you, man?
Yeah, it's the exact same. I mirrored what Joe's saying. I mean, I can see everything from when the customer first sent in a lead all the way through A to Z, and it's all in DriveCentric, all the communications there. I can see it. My sales managers can see it. My finance service, everybody is in there, can see it all from beginning to end. And it really, it's about organizing all of the noise, and all of this stuff coming in. And the way we used to have to do it is I would have to remember the next day, on Joe's example, if that was me, I would have to remember the next day to go to the finance manager, and it probably would have taken me, 10 times as long. So I got to go to the office and pull the packet and dig through the packet and find a copy of that contract and scan it and then email it. And you're just doing all this stuff. And then remember the next day to go to your team and say, hey, by the way, so-and-so called and I sent it over to them via email. It's just made the process smoother if you really focus on it. It is the best way to do it. It keeps everybody in the loop. It takes 1/10 of the time, and for some reason I don't feel any less busy. There's just more to do. You would think that we
down the list, bud.
Yeah, Joe, explain that one. Why are we not just kicked back, going, I don't have anything to do anymore?
Well, I think that's really nice because you don't have all these dashboards or different tools to go into. I think that's the thing is, no matter what, I know, you guys are both on Drive, but the fact of the matter is to hone in and centralize all your information into literally, I would tell anybody watching this, transform the CRM into be looking at an engagement platform that communicates to all departments. So you're not looking at all these crazy dashboards. You're communicating in one silo versus everywhere. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, so I think that's what you're hearing, the transformation of going to all these different, silos and keep the communication, no matter what department you're in, it's there in one place. So everybody has to know. Now, just real quick, was that a big transition for everybody to be in different departments in, let's say Drive or, in this case, or not?
For me, it's ongoing. It's still retraining some of the older guys, to hey, here's the best way to do this. But it's just training them to something that's going to be more efficient. Eventually we'll get it. And then everything, I don't know, then the world will change again. But for now it's just ongoing training. But
yeah, if you just say, hey, it's in Drive, did you look there? I mean, you got to say that. Harvard says to change habits, it takes 66 days to change a habit. So you just got to keep pointing to these old dogs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Joe, you agree?
Yeah, I think that it is modeled behavior from the top at this store or at these group of stores, right? Like Stephen Hill, our operating partner, with Dan, who I will literally, if I pull it, I actually have it up right now. If I look in Drive, I'm assuming that Stephen Hill is adding managers. So at Olathe Kia managers on individual deals, getting them to go look at things so that a couple things happen. One, they know he's paying attention and watching. Right. And two, to reiterate, hey, there's all this opportunity sitting here. I need you guys paying attention to it. And so when you see, the corporate finance director of multiple stores adding a service BDC because there's a customer that needs some help on service, it just pulls everybody into the conversation. And so I think that for us, it's more about everyone living in there and everyone communicating in there. I don't call anybody on my cell phone. I use the DriveCentric app, or I'm sitting at my desktop, so I hit dial and then my phone rings and now I'm talking to a customer, because I want my finance managers to hear my voice talking to a customer and handling some heat or whatever else happens inside of the system. I want them to look up and be like, yeah, I mean, Joe's on the front lines with us. Like, I want that to be a part of our culture. And I love that, like, that a centralized system and communication with the customer, a centralized engagement platform, and the way that we, text and video chat and all these things, or send videos, it's all in one place so you can see it all, is just, I don't know how I would do it without it now.
Well, there you go. That's what it's about, baby. All right. So, hey, a couple more questions so we can get to the audience. So this is going to be rapid fire a little bit, but, look, all this AI technology, I think everybody heard of AI by now, right? Is AI a thing? Is it a fad? Is it here to stay?
I'm not familiar with this term. What is this?
I don't know
AI?
either. I don't know either. I mean, but, people, I still remember all this. But, okay, so real quick, if I go to you, Joe, very quickly, I mean, with all the artificial intelligence that you're using, obviously you've gotten rid of a lot of tasks. Number one, how are you leveraging AI to do just consistent follow-up? I mean, between, I guess, AI and humans. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Genius follow-up every day, right? Like, I am looking at recommendations. I'm getting involved. It helps me to see heat that maybe nobody's paying attention to. We're not just using it to follow up. We are, like Jason described. It's also kind of telling us where we need to look to not miss something, right? It will literally tell us, like, hey, you need to call this customer, apologize, and escalate. And I'm like, all right, thank you. I'm on it. Like, and for me, I love, man, I know that there's a lot of stuff I suck at. Like, let me be clear. Like, I know that I can get scattered. I'm that manager that you were describing, Jason, where if there's too much going on, I'm going to get overwhelmed. And to me, it feels like someone's got my back. And if I see it in Genius, I can get on it real fast, take care of it. The customer's happy. They're talking to somebody that's a leader that can handle problems. And nobody even needs to know, because I just did it because Genius told me to. And I love it. And I love how not only is it great at responding to our customers helpfully, it's also great at, like, escalating things when it needs somebody to step in and get involved. And I think that's, like, wildly powerful at the dealer level.
One of my favorite things when I see the notifications and the AI says, hey, call this customer, versus a task saying to call the customer, two dynamically ways of looking at it. I got to make a call and customers asking for a phone call. I mean, I love the fact you brought that up. Jason, what about you? Because I know you got rid of tasks too, real quick.
Yeah, we're the same. I was like you, Joe, with, kind of salesperson checking out at the desk at the end of the day, and they got all these tasks they didn't do. And you try punishment, and you try, all these different things, and none of it works. So now, we're managing out of the bucket of engaged customers, not the bucket of leads that were dead a long time ago, and we just keep calling and texting and everything else. AI is doing all that for us. And so if a customer engages, then it moves into that engaged bucket. The salespeople are way more excited to do a task out of the engaged bucket, because they know that, hey, this might lead somewhere. This is and our percentage of, and this is a number I track all the time, the percentage of engaged to visits. And that's where I really managed to know, hey, what's the quality of our conversation? If that number starts to drop, then I'm digging and looking and going, oh, hey, look at this salesperson. The customer asked this question and he answered a different question, or he didn't answer their question. He just, and so it really has increased our ability to manage those tasks. It makes it so much easier. The Genius, like what you're talking about, you get right on it. Customers are happier because they've done, nowadays it's funny that I hear dealers still do this. It seems crazy to me, but a customer submits a credit application. They submit their trade in on your trade appraisal tool. They do everything that your website says will save them time before they come into the store. And then they come into the store and we make them do all those things over again. Well, that's really the reason is because no one was communicating from the finance department who got the credit application, or the used car manager who got the trade appraisal, to the salesperson on the floor that, hey, we already have this information. Well, now, like we said, it's all centralized. Everybody sees the conversations. The salesperson, he ups the customer on the lot, and he plugs their name into the CRM, and he goes, "Oh, you already submitted your trade. That's awesome. Oh, it looks like you already submitted a credit application. Yep. We can bypass that." And it just makes the customer experience so much better. We're communicating even though we're not communicating, because it's all, anybody who pulls that customer name up, they see all the things that are already completed, and now we can start from the next step.
Yeah. No.
Jason, you said something that I think really sticks out to me. I don't know if you've read Jocko Willink and Leif Babin's book, The Dichotomy of Leadership, but they give an example of where this call center was all like spiffed on how many calls they were making, and they were terrible. And then they looked at all the data and they're like, well, it's because they're rushing through these calls to do more calls, and the calls are super low quality. And so they're, 30-second calls. And when they started spiffing on like the time that you were on the phone with the customer, their results shot up. And I think a lot of times what tasks do is distract you to something that's easy to follow. And you go, well, we did all this. Like, look at the work we did. Like, it's almost incentivizing you to focus on effort, not outcomes. Yeah. And I think that when you shift that mindset, at least for me, what I've seen is what really matters is, what are we doing to assist this customer and sell this car? Like, what are we doing to make this thing actually happen? Not, well, I did 400 tasks this month and I sold 8 cars. Well, okay, then you suck at tasks, bro. Like, you suck at the work. Let's fix that.
It's the salesman who you log in and you see he's got 200 tasks at 4:30, but then when he checks out at 6 o'clock, all those tasks are gone. How in the world did he make 200 phone calls in the last
Superman. He's Superman, baby. Yeah, that's your Superman salesperson right there.
So we're
I was
just
saying, Jason, you may be describing me as a salesperson. Like, I may resemble that remark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, hey, guys, and look, this is because we're getting down to the end, but this is kind of like one of those things where you're right. The task-based stuff, is obviously, it doesn't matter what we have to do from a task side. At the end of the day, these digital showroom customers, I don't know if people realize, but there's about 20 to 30 times more people talking in your digital showroom than visiting your physical showroom. The war is getting those customers from the digital showroom to your physical showroom. And if you're not managing that, you're losing the gap. So real quick, Joe, very quickly, because we're going to wrap up for questions here. What opportunities were you missing before? And how has AI uncovered them for you guys?
Yeah, man. I mean, Steve, I've taught at NADA Dealer Academy now for going on my 7th year as a guest instructor on digital strategy. And the thing that I was talking about is we have a broken strategy in automotive. It's clickbait plus harassment. Like, that's our digital strategy. We're going to clickbait them, get some information, then we're just going to harass them until they show up. And what I think that like DriveCentric does for us is really highlights those opportunities and drags my people to engage with the customer, right? Like, that's where I think the miss is because not every conversation that the AI is having is about selling a car, and nor should it be. It's a conversation that's going to help lead to a car sale. And for me, I don't think that's busy work. I think that's customer experience. Like, that's, when I'm checking in at the Ritz-Carlton in DC to go teach at NADA, they're having great conversations with me and I feel awesome about it, even though I booked it on an app, right? And like, I think that, like, as a dealer, no matter how hard we try and how much effort we put into it, at some point we will drop balls and mess things up. These are imperfect humans trying hard. And I think that it's all about the recovery. I have somebody used to say that to me all the time, hey, bro, it's all about the recovery. And how we recover is what customers remember. And I love that the DriveCentric platform is pulling us into those so we can't hide from them, because when you hide from us, when they turn into something really bad. And I think that that's something we don't talk about that we should, and how these tools are making us more effective at delivering the experience that we hope for our customers, and selling these 20 to 30 times the amount of people more cars, and going, like you said, Jason, from engaged to visits, and then from visits to close. Like, those are the two numbers that I'm myopically focused on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before, I'll be real quick, Steve. Before, we would get a lead and a salesperson would try to reach them 2 or 3 times, and then it would fall into their tasks that would get buried. And then in 2 weeks, we would mark the lead dead because, we didn't get them engaged. And what we see now is that AI is constantly continuing to deliver consistent follow-up with that customer, we'll see that the customer was back on our website in a week, or back on our website 2 months later, or has consistently been shopping. They just haven't been talking to us yet. And so instead of marking that customer dead, AI is continuing to follow up, continuing to watch what's going on. They're still in our digital showroom, and we're able to keep them in our digital showroom because based on what they look at on our website, then we have a system that gives them follow up based on what they're seeing, what they're looking at, sending them other things that may interest them. And then next thing you know, 3 months later, they engage. And then we sell a car, whereas previously that would have been marked dead a whole long time ago, and we would have moved on. And it's been good in that sense.
All right, here before we pull Emma up, this is a really rapid fire question. All right, because the whole topic is getting rid of all these systems. What would you say to another dealer who's watching this that's looking for another tool? What would you say?
I'd say talk to Steve at DriveCentric and get all their tools, because what I see is the lifetime value of our customer is way bigger than one deal, and we're keeping them in our store. We're keeping them a part of our team, that customer, throughout their lifespan, because the communication is smoother, it's better. I don't have people dropping the ball. The system is doing a great job.
Joe?
Yeah, I would say find a tool that can be your center of engagement. It's like I tell my team, if it's not in Drive, it doesn't exist, right? And like for me, I think that having a central point of that, when it comes to that really important piece, which is like the customer communication, like have a central place where that happens for everything. And that makes a huge difference for us.
Yeah, and I always appreciate the plug, Jason, but at the end of the day, this is really about systems that dealers have in place. Make sure the vision of the company and whatever they're invested in, they got to understand the vision of the company. They got to be able to ask, like, hey, these are the things we want. And
to be fair, there are other systems that do the same thing or something similar. Our DMS has a lot of the same kind of tools. We found that DriveCentric, for us anyway, is I don't know. I like the flow of it. It seems easier for us to use. We've had good luck with it. And the main thing is getting your people to buy in and to use it. And that's what we've been able to accomplish. And I think it's not about, you add another login, all you're doing is paying for a login that nobody can use. There's too many logins, too many dashboards, too many distractions. You got to simplify it. That's what I would say to anybody who's on the fence. Simplify your systems, and you're going to start seeing your customer engagement increase, and which naturally your sales are going to increase. And then if you've got a great tool that continues that follow-up without trusting a person to do it, because I'm one of those guys that I'm going to probably drop the ball too if I'm expected to remember to follow up with a customer 6 months from now. I've got too many fires in front of me today that I'm focused on. Your people are the same way. Automate that stuff and let your people sell cars or service cars or sell parts, and everybody's gonna be happier.
I agree. Good way to wrap up. All right, Emma, you can come up here and join the party, gal. Let's go. Let's rapid fire these guys. Let's see what
if anybody has questions about who's perfected this. It's not me, by the way. It's Joe. But
no, me either. I haven't just made every mistake. I've perfected those, right?
Yeah, I've probably got 10 this morning. I've already made, but we're gonna go fix those too. So.
I gotta say, one of my first questions might be for Steve. Actually, I think there's a business opportunity for Drive so that you can elevate the current DriveCentric to Pro and then make a DriveCentric for personal. Because I also see that there could be an amazing opportunity for DriveCentric to manage your personal life, just with taking all that. Taking all those
personal assistant. I like it. That's a great idea.
Yeah,
that's kind of interesting. I haven't heard of that one, but that would be really great if we could. I'll take every business opportunity there is. So.
Yeah. Well, what I heard loud and clear was say no to tasks. which I think there's everyone around the world watching this right now is applauding this. And I love the way you started off, Joe. I think it was communication inflation, where it's just like that overwhelming sense of, and, even Jason, you talked about it with your used car manager and just feeling like they can't get through the day because they've turned into an admin person, basically, having to check in constantly, and not actually do the human job. So it's been great just being in the audience and listening to this talk from you guys. Okay, rapid fire. I'm going to get into it. Question here from Brittany. Do either of you, so Jason and Joe, do either of you have standard operating procedures for lead handling without tasks? And how are the managers to know where to focus? I mean, and this is a big part of what you talked about. How do you refocus your people onto the tasks that matter? How do you do that? Is there a standard process? And Joe, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so for us, we use the EOS methodology, entrepreneur owner operating system, for how we run our business. So we have core processes that we clearly define and type out. So you call them SOPs, core processes, whatever you want. And we have a clearly defined process for how we sell a car. We have a clearly defined process for how we execute an F&I turn. We have a clearly defined process for how we follow up with customers. And it's really informed by what our leadership team and I have learned going to things like the DC conference, right? And so it is very unambiguous in what the expectations are and how to prioritize and work through that workflow. And so it gives us something to train back against when we feel like things are getting off or things are starting to veer from what expectations are.
Okay, so it is customized to Oak's group, and yes, you have one.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how to
Jason?
do this without it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a process. I mean, I can sum it up pretty easily. When a lead comes in, or first thing in the morning when they come in, they see all these leads that have come in, then the sales managers are responsible for those leads. I found that my best salespeople in the store are my sales managers, and they get the first crack at those leads of if there's a specific question that the customer has, they'll turn that over to a salesperson. It's not a round robin because life isn't fair. I want that lead with the best person that is going to handle that lead. And so they disperse those, and then they manage those leads throughout the day. I have 3 sales managers between my 2 stores, and one of them is in DriveCentric at all times. There's never a time when when one of the managers is not sitting there physically handling, watching interactions and making sure that things are ran properly. And boy, we've seen, I think at one time our engaged to visits percentages were in the 20 to 30% range. And since we changed the process to eliminate tasks and just focus on this and turned it over this way, I think our best month has been in the 70% range. We're typically in the 60s pretty consistently. I don't know if that's good or not, but that's just what we're seeing. We saw an increase, and so we'll continue to try and work on that and make it better. But and then to answer further, if we don't get engagement from the customer, we continue for a few days, but then AI takes over and we'll see them pop back up in that engaged bucket eventually. And so that's our process.
Yeah, I like that. Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
I was just saying, we structured kind of around it, right? So we went from a centralized BDC model to having what we call sales assistants. They're both sitting at the desk. So you have your sales managers at the desk, and like here at Olathe, you've got Tassi and Jade sitting right next to them. And so it's real-time communication. And we are the same way, Jason. We don't have a rotation because life's not fair. If you are available, you're getting this lead because we want somebody on it right now. And you'll hear them yelling, "Hey, Bruce, I need your help on this. I got a customer on line 1." And it is like real. When I said swarming to the ball, we swarm to the customer. And so it's not just even an SOP. It's the way that we're structuring our operation is designed to really work with that.
We actually have a similar setup. Our BDC is has a door connected right off of the sales manager's office where the 3 managers are. And our BDC department is ran a little differently. It's kind of our farm team for the sales floor. And so new guys come in, new hires come in, they work the BDC in the beginning, but it's a similar setup where the sales managers hear everything going on and they can do training, and if they're successful at that and do really well at that, then they can move on to the floor. But yeah, it's a similar type of deal.
Yeah, I think that's amazing also, because that's part of the experience for the customer, and seeing that there's real humans. Yeah, it just... And
questions need to be answered fast. I'm like,
yeah.
The swarm to the customer is a great way to say it. It's somebody engages, they expect it right now. It's the world we live in. I send a text message and somebody doesn't respond. I'm going, what happened? Did they die? I mean, this was my friend, and it's been 5 minutes and he hasn't responded.
Well, and you know what? One of the role plays I'll do with y'all that I do at a store is like, if you have a customer that's sitting on the sidebar for 15 minutes, do the role play of somebody like in your, where in your conference room, and just ask the question, hey, I'm interested in buying a car. And the sales guy has to wait 15 minutes to respond. It's very awkward.
Yeah.
When you're in person, but the digital showroom is just one of those things you got to manage, to Jason's point.
Yeah, completely. And for those watching our webinar today, Joe at Oaks and Jason at Legacy, have a look at their websites, because interesting experiences at both of their stores. I know you guys have more than one store, but I can see that there's a great customer experience there. And a lot of it, like you're saying, is just from just obviously that great communication and the bonds that the people have in the shop. It's not Sleepy Hollow. These are fun places to shop. Okay, another quick question here from Mallory. As a sales manager, what steps do you take for double checking that nothing was missed or ignored in DriveCentric? Love the idea of going task-free. Jason, you talked about it being kind of that safety net and not having to worry, and obviously taking some of the awkwardness out of things too, when, you don't want to harass, but you still want to be top of mind. So, what are those steps that you've seen with Drive?
Well, for us, like I said before, I just set a policy where there's one manager in the CRM at all times. And because you really do, you have to have eyes on it. And Joe, like probably you and I and every other dealership across the country, you've got some salespeople that you would trust with any customer, and you've got some that they're still learning, they're still figuring it out. And I want to make sure that the questions are answered properly, that questions or engagement is happening fast. People want to hear back right now. They want to, and the faster you can engage. And so for us, it just takes somebody looking at it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe?
I would echo that. I'm really struggling not to look at my DriveCentric right now, because I've got it open right here and I see that there's an unresponded or an unreplied that needs to be handled right now.
Are you double tasking?
Oh man.
Yeah. And for
somebody's
me,
in trouble as soon as this is over.
Are you reaching out? Are you following up on a lead while we're trying to do a webinar?
Yeah, I'm trying not to type a text message to a customer right now live in the middle of this webinar. Because it's a simple fix. I just need somebody to respond to it. But yeah, for us, because not only do we expect the managers to be in there, we are in there, right? So I'm on the corporate leadership team with Dan and Steven, and we're pinging people all the time. They're seeing me like what normally would happen right now, because I would see this unreplied on a POI stip that we need for finance, and the customer said, "Can I just take a picture of it and send it to you?" And that was 6 minutes ago, and they haven't responded yet. And to me, I would just pretend to be the salesperson and say, "Yep, that would be a great start if I need anything more, but just go ahead and send me that right now." And then the salesman will be like, "Oh, Joe responded. I should have probably responded to that one." And it puts kind of subtle psychological pressure that like I'm on it, so I expect you to be on it. And so for us, it's not just having sales managers in there all the time. At the GM, GSM, corporate level, we are all in there.
Well, and to your point, Joe, the salesperson, maybe he was talking to another customer. Maybe he had somebody in front of him and he can't respond, but the customer who is asking that question doesn't know that. They just feel ignored. And so when you have this centralized system that everybody's watching, it does allow a manager to just jump in immediately and handle it. And the customer experience is a million times better. We're not perfect at this either. But this is the goal, and this is what we expect, and this is what we're pushing for. And I think when it does happen, it's a lot of fun, because you see happier customers and you see happier salespeople because they're selling more cars, and everybody's having fun, and at least that's
I just
what
did
happens.
it. I couldn't help it. I just responded. I couldn't help it. I'm gonna close my drive now.
Yeah.
Well, and let me throw this out for you, Mallory. I mean, the whole idea is, on Drive, just take care of your sidebar. The sidebar should be zeroed out every single day. You'll see how long those customers are waiting. But if you go into your pipeline, like let's say you go in your proposal bucket, you can see the last attempt. And so what a lot of our stores will do, and I don't know if Joe or Jason, you do this, but if you look at your last attempt and it's more than 2 days, that's a gap of follow-up. So like if we know the customers are buying cars, let's say 80% of the time in 10 days or less, you want to make sure that gap is no more than 2 days. Otherwise, you have a huge gap. I mean, that's where AI can potentially jump in. But, in each of your buckets, you want to manage your last attempt gap to be less than 2 days.
Yeah. I mean, Steve, is it fair to say that, you had that stat about how the traffic now that's digital in the digital showroom is 20 to 30 times what it would be in person? Like, it would be virtually impossible to hire enough people to actually do this on a human basis. Like, this has to happen. A lot of the time, it's just an acknowledgement that, yes, we've seen the lead, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, a customer that's talking to your store, if you had 20, 30 customers that are in your physical showroom, that's a great problem to solve. You just got to solve the digital showroom now. That's why Jason and Joe, what you're hearing is they're managing it inside the system and communicating back to the customer. If the salesperson selling a car, they could jump in and imitate. I hope Joe imitated the salesperson right there.
I did. I was imitating them.
Yeah, because otherwise it's a separate text thread to the customer, and the customer's like, who the hell is this? You know what I mean? So
it gets weird. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so it really is about keeping that customer's attention with your store. It's like dating. I always say internet lead, and selling a car is like the internet dating world today. The more you talk to that customer or that young lady or that young guy, whatever, the more attentive they get to you, and then you'll eventually go on the date.
Yeah. Thank you, AI, for that part. Okay. Question here from Gary. We have time for probably 2 more questions if I hurry here. So Gary is saying, so what is the responsibility of your management team in daily follow-up and, making the sales associates accountable? Joe, I'll start with you. You've kind of touched on this already.
Yeah, it is clearly defined in our core process that they own. So I like the old scaling up pay sheets, like who owns the accountability for following and executing that process. And we clearly define the ownership level for that. Managing and owning that 14-day follow-up is assigned to the sales manager to manage for their team. So they have the accountability of like driving that. Now, if you look at our sales assistant or BDC or whatever you want to call it, core process, right? Like our BDC is responsible for the initial engagement, and they're going to literally handle it for 72 hours. And if it's fumbled and they can't get anywhere, then salespeople jump into it. Or once they get it going, then it's handed off. Like it's very clearly defined how it kind of processes through our system. But we've gotten to where it's so part of our culture that if you're at our dealership and there's a sales meeting going on, you'll hear them say, all right, let's talk about 14-day for a moment. Like they call it 14-day because that's what our follow-up process is. And so they're managing, and see, I don't want to go too deep in the weeds here, but engage, you pull up the thing and you look at both sides of it to identify who you're going to get with. Yeah. They're driving that every single morning. So our daily workflow, starts with a save a deal meeting to make sure that we're not missing anything and go look for opportunities. And then it is a quick training, and then it is pointing everybody in direction of doing the work that's going to deliver results. And typically that means follow-up, and it's going to be a review of 14-day by the sales manager, and then assigning out specific action items that people are going to go start doing.
So you actually have something called Save a Deal.
Yes. every single morning.
It's amazing. Jason, do you have anything like that? What do you do?
Oh yeah, we do save deal meetings. Actually we have a sales meeting every morning. It's brief, but we talk about leads that have come in. We talk about follow-up. A lot of that time is spent talking about the CRM. I guess to the guy's question, I think his question specifically, what is the sales manager's responsibility with regard to leads and follow-up? And anyway.
Yeah. And for management, I think it's more about management following up with the team.
It's kind of like the role of a BDC manager, but we don't have a BDC manager. I think what the tool has allowed us to do is to just integrate that at the desk, which just eliminates another person that this information has to go through. We're trying to with that move, and maybe we're a little heavy on sales managers now because we don't have a BDC manager. But what we're trying to do is take the information from the customer directly to the person who can answer the question and handle the problem or whatever it is that's going on. And so when a sales manager receives that lead, they either handle it themselves or they pass it off to a salesperson they know will handle it. And then they're all three in that CRM watching the things everything that's happening. And so it really is. I'll walk into the sales office sometimes and it might be slow. And I'll walk into the sales office and all three of them are in the CRM. And you hear this bling, 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 things are going off and they're just, and you'll see one of them, hey, Big Country, we've got a salesperson named Big Country. Hey, Big Country, so-and-so just asked this question. Go get me a walk around video highlighting these features. And he on it, boss, and he runs out and he'll get a video and it's sent to the customer. And it's just, you see that activity happening. I tell our management team all the time, if you didn't sell enough cars today, what you expected, look back 5 days in your CRM and see what the activity looked like. I guarantee you won't see the activity that should be there. It's really about 5 days is what we see. If you have a ton of activity, if we have a great CRM day, then you're going to find you sell a lot of cars 5 days from now. You have lots of showroom traffic, and so that's kind of they're learning that we have to be in that CRM even on a busy day. We had a record breaking Saturday last month. It was fun and everybody's selling cars, and we had, I think all but one of our salespeople had a hat trick that day. It was just a great day, but there was hardly no CRM activity because everybody was just busy. And so all these leads that came in that day didn't get answered, didn't get taken care of. And all of a sudden we had a fall on our face day. I think it was the next Thursday, was just like nothing. And I told them, I said, well, guys, it's because you didn't, hey, look at this. And so now we see salespeople, especially more, they think about that and they, even if they're busy, they're still in the CRM trying to respond to leads and trying to respond to customers. Our sales management team is way better on top of it. Even if they have a busy day, they have to be in that CRM responding to customers. And it's just helped us to have a more consistent days rather than these peaks and valleys of selling a ton of cars and then nothing for 3 days, and it's just made things more consistent, more managed by the numbers, and it's for the principal, it's awesome. So,
well, and for the sake of purposes, Emma, there's a total shift of how people typically don't have their CRM open at the desk. Let's be honest. I mean, they've got their inventory tool. They get to have their DMS open. The shift of like these customers that are talking to you in the digital showroom and actually understanding the importance of a digital showroom customer. That's where the managers need to take priority. They all get paid on gross. So if they can have a shift of seeing like all these customers, not just in your physical showroom, but now this digital showroom, it just, the managers do like understand that, man, I can make more money if I take care of the digital showroom customer because of how many there are. And we just got to take care of those the same way.
This isn't a new problem. This is, 20 years ago when I was selling cars, it's the phone call, and I remember the phone would ring and salesmen would rush to grab the phone before the other salesman did, because that phone rings and we were taught that's the cash register, cha-ching, get the phone, answer the phone. And now it's all in the CRM. I mean, we still get phone calls.
Say the engagement platform. I mean, transfer. My goal, my mission in life is to get. Nobody says CRM anymore. It's their engagement platform. Yeah. I know it's a transformation, but that's what I want everybody to look at their CRM, even though I'm saying it right now, to transform it to that should be the centralized engagement platform for your customers as well as in your store.
Yeah. Steve, and I think what has happened here, Steve, with Drive, from what I gather and what I'm listening to, is that any of the awkwardness and drudgery of following up, which, let's face it, like it can be awkward, even if you're not chasing, but these are strangers. These customers are strangers at this point. And if this is making it fun and even engaging for the sales associates that are using it, then that does change everything. And they have no choice. So you have to be following up on these leads. So if you're making it fun and interesting, then that seems like a big shift.
The hottest customers are the ones talking to you, whether in person or digitally. It's the same thing. I try not to make it harder than what it is, but that's the simplicity of it.
Okay, well, listen, I feel like I'm closing out this webinar, but I feel like I'm doing some closing for this. But I really think this has been amazing to listen to the three of you. Like, this is such a great format, Steve, when you do this. It's so energizing, and it's been great getting to know Joe and Jason today. Like, we're about 7 minutes over. I feel like we should do this again next week and just book 2 hours. But before we close out, I just want to ask you guys any parting words for Wednesday? Any parting words?
If your managers aren't living in your engagement program, in your engagement system, you're missing business, full stop. Like, if your sales managers aren't living in your engagement platform, you're missing business. Fix that and you'll sell more cars immediately.
Yeah. That's coming through loud and clear. Jason, how about you?
Well, it kind of, I just had a thought, and it's probably still somewhat true, of the customer value, metric. And we have traditionally ranked customers based on value of a previous customer versus referral versus service customer versus internet lead. And we break that down under type of internet lead as to how valuable they are. But the internet leads used to be at the bottom of the barrel. It was the guy who's shopping 5 stores and on price alone and everything else. And I don't see that anymore. Most of the engaged leads that we see are local people some of whom have done business with us in the past. They're not necessarily shopping a ton of other places. They have decided what they want. They saw it on our lot, and so they sent an internet lead, even if they were previous customers. And so we really have to be quicker to respond and respond with quality to those customers. They're way more valuable than they used to be. And my guess is that there's a lot of older school thinking out there. I'm guilty of it too. That thinks about, well, I need that customer in front of me before I'm going to really give them the value of my time. And that's just, you're missing all kinds of business if that's your mentality.
Yeah, for sure. Steve, I'm going to give you the last word here, but I think I was just going to say what Jason was saying, because you were saying it's 80% of deals are now within a 10-day window. So that is really, that's all the time you really have typically, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what urban science will say. That's what our data says. Everybody's just buying cars faster. They could go to other stores, but the bottom line is, I think for all the stores, just centralize your communication strategy. That's really the simplicity. And that's what we just got to do, whether across your stores, your departments, the customer, leverage these customers in these digital showrooms and make it a priority to know that that's more important than your physical showroom. Anybody can close 50% of the time a physical showroom customer. The war is getting those customers to visit you from the digital showroom. So in the spirit of may the Sith be with you, I want to, and
all right, awesome.
I couldn't believe it. I'm a Star Wars junkie, and I missed may the Sith be with you, and now I got to say may the Sith be with you, you know?
No problem. I get it. I'm a Star Wars nerd as well, and I love ending on that. Listen, that brings us to the end of our webinar. Thanks to today's audience for the questions. We did actually have a lot of questions that we didn't get a chance to answer today, but our friends at DriveCentric will follow up by email. If you learned something from this session, I made a lot of notes today. Please tell your peers about it. The recording will be available in about an hour. You'll find it at autonews.com/sponsored/webinars. When the webinar ends, a survey will pop up on your screen. We genuinely appreciate your feedback as it helps us create future webinars that are even more beneficial to you. Thanks again to Steve, Joe, Jason, and DriveCentric for bringing us this presentation, and to you for joining us. On behalf of everyone at Automotive News, have a great rest of your day.